Alright guys, it's the same day as my last video, no problem. I get eager, man. That's why I don't document this stuff. That's why I don't take pictures a lot, and I know I'm gonna regret it one day when my son's here and I'm telling him all this stuff that I did and how I learned and everything, and I'm not gonna have too much proof to show him. So I'm gonna try to do better with that. But anyways, I was telling you guys in the last video that I was gonna show you how I was doing this transmission tunnel grafting or whatever you want to call it. With this motor, it's a 5.3 LS with a 4L60E transmission. And where I've stabbed it, where I got it, at the height that I have it and everything, I do have to clearance the trans tunnel. I think if I got a shallower pan, maybe I could have avoided that, but I didn't want to spend $300 on some other kind of transmission pan. This is out of a 2000. This is out of 2007 Silverado, and the truck pan that comes with it, with this Mustang 2 suspension here that I got. I also got this from Jimenez Brothers. I don't know how much of that you can see, but with that cross member, that Mustang 2 cross member, that that oil pan has enough clearance to make it, because the oil pan dips down in the back. It's a rear sump oil pickup deal there. So that fit just fine, but the way my transmission cross member was that I had and what I had to work with, what I had to do, actually the main factor was how low that pan was because of clearance, and because this is a slam truck, I would hate for that thing to get, cracked on a speed bump or, going off of a curb or something dumb like that. So I raised it above that cross member, so hopefully that cross member will be the first thing and the only thing that will get hit, because that's strong enough to take it. That oil pan probably wouldn't do that good. Anyways, back to this deal here. Let me show you what we got going on. Alright, I've already started cutting, but this is part of the original trans cover, I'll call it, because it's not a tunnel really. If you look, there's a little bit of a lip at the end, and that's how it originally came with these 3100s pickup trucks. This is what we're dealing with right now. Alright, I bought this thing off of eBay, and I can't remember exactly. It was either $80 or $180, and I cannot remember. But I'm really short on time with this truck because I'm in the process of going down, moving. I'm keeping this house. My sister and my nephew stay here, but I'm physically moving myself for a little while, and I want to take the truck with me. But anyways, this transmission tunnel that I've already begun to work on, flip this around, came off of eBay, and it's wide enough to do what I got to do. I just have to take the pieces out of it that I want to use. I don't need all of it. I've already cut some of it right there. But if you can see, let's see if we can make this work so you can see what it originally would have looked like. That's what the original trans cover would have looked like, basically. I put masking tape on the top side. I laid it down flat. Alright, I had cardboard under it so I didn't scratch up my floor. I had a bunch of cardboard that I cut out, and I put masking tape down all the way down the sides of this transmission tunnel. Then I marked it, and then I cut it. Now this cross cut, because I could have made the transmission tunnel go all the way through, and I didn't want to do that because, as you see, there's holes in this transmission pan, or this transmission cover. I want to use that to keep it removable. So I did my measurement from the back. This is the back. This would be towards the seat. This would be the firewall side down here. But I did my measurement from the back of where that is to where the transmission starts to poke up past the level of the floor. And I gave myself some more, a little bit back. Gave myself some of that leeway, and I also wanted to keep this rib, this this bead roll or whatever this is in there for at least a little bit of strength for this part. This, once I tie it all in with the weld, is going to be plenty strong and it's going to work just fine. Anyways, but I made my measurement to see where it started poking up, and then I clearanced that part of the pan. All right. I do plan on that hole right there. I want it to come off at an angle and just go down, you know, smoothly. I mean, the easiest thing to do would be to put a flat sheet and weld it all in. I might do that. I don't want to, but time might dictate that I do that. We'll see what I can come up with. But anyways, I clearanced it all, and then I put my pen mark, and I cut up to that pen mark, you know, making sure that I took off just enough. This has a little bit of give in it, so I use these sheet metal butt weld clamps to hold it in right now. And there's a bit of a gap, but I'm not too worried about that. We'll take our time and we'll fill those in however we got to do. I'll probably weld it from both sides, to be honest with you, just to make sure. And I'm not too worried about that being watertight, because I'll end up seam sealing it anyway, because I'm gonna undercoat the entire bottom of the floor, that transmission cover included. Excuse me. So I'm gonna have to cut off the front of that transmission tunnel that I'm grafting in, but I'm gonna tack this in place for now, so I don't have to keep using these butt weld clamps here. I'm gonna tack this in place and then see what I have to do to cut it off. I'm thinking to start, see where this transitions diagonal, and then there's this like break right here where it starts to come down some more. I think I'll start there, maybe cut that part off, but I'm gonna do some measurements first to see if I don't want to screw myself. All right, but I'm thinking that's probably where I'll take the tunnel, and then see what we're gonna do with the rest of this. Let me show you where it's going again, if you guys haven't seen. Sorry, that was on the last video. But anyways, you see that indention? It's kind of like a U shape. I do have two slits here because that's where my brake booster is, down there underneath the floor, and I had to get to it to bleed the brakes, and I didn't have time to mess around. That's the original hole for the old one, the one, you know, single piston, or it only had two ports. It had a front and a back, and if that brake booster ever went out or one of them lines went bad, you were gone. This one's a two-pot brake thing here. But anyways, that's why that's cut, but I'm gonna seal that back up, and I think I'm gonna move that battery cover, which, if you can see, has my air tanks under it. Probably gonna cut that battery cover out and put it over here so that I can have access to this brake booster. I don't need access to that air tank as much as I need access to that brake booster, most likely. I also have something else planned for that brake booster, like a remote filled deal, but that's later. Anyways, this is the spot that it's going, right there, and let's see what we can do about that. Anyways, I'll get back with you guys once I get a few tacks on this, and maybe even do some cuts and stuff, see where this ends up. All right, y'all, check this out. Like I said, Harbor Freight, man, I got this little flux core welder now. Not that there's anything wrong with flux core welding, you just have to know what you're dealing with that process. All right, it's dirtier, it's hot, it burns hotter, which is probably good for the frame stuff, that thicker metal and all of that stuff. You know, get better penetration and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with flux core, man. They built this nation on flux core welding and less stuff than that. But anyways, I'm doing something right now I've never done with it, which is sheet metal work. I looked on YouTube. I didn't find too much on people doing sheet metal work, or nothing that made me happy, at least. But I figured, man, at this point, and even with a piece like this, I'm just going to go for it. Anyways, I feel a lot better about it using this particular flux core welder from Harbor Freight, because I have a lot more settings. It's like one of those, what they call like infinite setting deals, where that knob, it doesn't click, it just smoothly turns. I got that thing turned almost all the way down. on the power. This thing's nice, man. I'm not gonna lie. As far as the flux core welder goes, especially something so small, more budget minded. That thing was, I got it for $99. They run 200 from Harbor Freight. There might be a coupon, I'm not sure. But I got it for $99 on one of those parking lot sales. Somebody took it back. It was a refurbished, quote unquote, refurbished model. But I'm happy with it. I had before the regular MIG, gas shielded MIG from Harbor Freight, not the high spendy one, but it had like 4 settings and then a speed setting. It had high, low, 1 and 2, and I did most of this truck and learned all I know about welding on that thing. And that thing was better for me at the time. I passed it on to a friend that's starting to learn how to weld, because everything I needed to get for this truck could be done with this flux core welder, from what I thought. And I want to get the really nice OmniPro Harbor Freight welder. Anyways, what I'm doing here, guys, I told you I was tacking. This is the back side. So what you got to do with flux core for sure is you got to take all that flux off. So I just tack welded here, went around, and I'm gonna brush all of that off nice and clean. And then here's the front side. I tacked the front, and then I went on the back and I tacked right over those same tacks on the back side. And I've never done, thinner sheet metal with the flux core, but with it turned down, it looks like it's gonna work just fine. I'll double check. I was getting all right penetration. Maybe I could turn it up a little bit. I probably won't. Maybe the wire speed a little bit. Maybe I'll turn it up a tad on the power. But that low power already, it looks like it's just fine. So that's what we're doing. Let's see what the next time you see me, it'll probably be closer to the finished product. Hey guys, I forgot to update you, but it took me a little while to finish this. Anyways, finished the trans cover. I had to cut it in a few pieces, but let me show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so I showed you guys before where I grafted everything in or whatever, and I had a bunch hanging off the top area. Okay, I had a bunch, like that much at least. Alright, and there's some other pieces. The other pieces that I started to cut. But anyways, what I did was I cut a piece of cardboard to find that angle, this angle right here, in the floor, because this is flat. That would be flat. That's almost like a 45 degree or whatever, as you can see, as it sits on the floor like that. Okay. I took a piece of cardboard to find that angle just to get a rough estimate. And then I went in and I bent out of this edge, this lip here. It's very rough, but the thing is that I'm going to cover this all with like rhino liner or some kind of thing. So like it gives me a lot of freedom to not have to have this thing finished, like metal finished and stuff like that. It's going to hide all of these imperfections. But anyways, I did all of this with that flux core welder. Not the prettiest beads, but just that it can be done. And I really didn't do beads. I just tack. I couldn't get this front part to sit right, so basically I cut it and then I butt it. I made sure everything else fit right. I zipped it all down with self-tapping screws, and then basically I sat this part that I cut off. I sat that up against the firewall flat as I could to see where it would line up. And then I cut off whatever excess there was, and then I welded it all back together. Basically just welded it as good as I could. And it sits up in there real nice. I forgot to show you guys how it sits in there. I'll try to remember to do that. Can't do it at the moment. As you can see, my cab is sitting up on that cherry picker or engine hoist. I gotta get it off so that I can get to the very bottom of the cab and deal with some surface rust. This is the rough cut from this side of that trans tunnel. And then as you can see down there, it's all surface rust, but I want to deal with it. I'm going to, get as much of it off as I can. I'm going to seam seal, whatever. Well, actually, I'm going to get as much of it off as I can, then I'm going to treat it with Pour 15, the metal prep, the degreaser, the whole 3-step process that they have. Once I Pour 15 it, I'm going to seam seal over it, all the edges that I feel, could get water and stuff in them. And then I'm going to basically Raptor line it. I got the Raptor line kit. But, yep, that's it. This is what it looks like from the bottom. This trans tunnel deal. That's a rough cut. I also took something sharp and scribed along the whole edge, and I'm going to cut that out a lot cleaner. So, anyways, that's where I'm at with this right now. And, yep, that's where we are. So, hopefully I can answer any of your questions if you have any. Sorry, I noticed a while ago that I was filming upright with my phone. I'm going to do all of this up with my phone right now until I get, if I like what's going on, having to stop and record and stuff like that, maybe I'll get a action camera or something smaller and just do something better. But anyways, any questions you guys have, let me know. Harbor Freight. 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 Most of this stuff. Harbor Freight. Most of it. It is. That's how I get it done. That's how I'm able to get it done. Not Harbor Freight. Anyways. All right, guys.